looks like our next guest, I see him backstage, is ready to go. His name is Bret Scholtes. He's president and CEO at Guardion Health. It's ticker GHSI. How you doing today, Bret?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for asking. I see your slides back there. They're looking good. Shape the future with momentum. It's on you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody taking time to learn a little bit more about Guardion Health Sciences. And thank you to the team at Benzinga for the opportunity to talk today. I'm going to take you through kind of a 15 to 18-minute presentation, high level, try to give you more information about the company. The slides I'm going to present are actually on our website as well. We filed them as an 8K. And for anybody that's interested in having a follow-up conversation, there's contact information on the last page about how to have a follow-up conversation. Before we get into the details of the presentation, just to give you a little bit of background on myself, for those of us who we've not met yet, my name is Bret Scholtes. I'm the CEO at Guardion Health Sciences. I've been with the company since January of this year. Prior to joining Guardion, I spent 10 years in the industry. I was the CEO at Omega Protein, which some of you may remember. It was actually a small cap on the New York Stock Exchange, which was a nutrition company that we built up and sold to a larger entity. A lot of the things that we're talking about today are things very similar to the Omega Protein journey. So with that, we'll go ahead and dive in. I will not take time to read the forward-looking statement, but would obviously encourage all of you to take a minute to read that before investing. High level, we are a clinical nutrition and diagnostics company. We offer a portfolio of science-based, clinically supported nutritional supplements, medical foods, and diagnostics products. And I want to focus on the science-based, clinically supported. This is something that is absolutely the core of what we do, why the company was created. It also plays a big role in how we look to differentiate within the industry. We've also want to point out the fact that we made an acquisition in June of a brand named Viactive. It is a line of supplement chews, primarily for bone health and immune health. We'll go through this in a little bit more detail. This was absolutely a changing event for the company, and gave us a great brand name as well as products to grow with. And we're very excited about that. And we talk about the financial results. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail. On the right-hand side, just some statistics to give you a feel for the company. We've been trading right around $1. So with 24.4 million shares, you can see that the market cap has kind of been around $24-25 million recently. No debt on the balance sheet. Cash balance at $10.6 million at the end of September. And from the 52-week range, you can see that we're trading at the bottom end of the 52-week range, despite the fact that we've had a very exciting year in 2021 that I'm looking forward to talking about in a little bit more detail and why we're so optimistic about what the future holds in 2022. This is just a quick picture to talk a little bit about what we looked like before Viactive, with Viactive, and the company today. So for those of you who have looked at the story in the past, what you probably remember is a very clinical approach to this nutrition industry, utilizing scientific advisors, advising doctors, having formulations very much based on the efficacy of a product. One of the things a couple of things that we picked up with the Viactive transaction, and why I think that is such a changing transaction for our company, is we were able to marry the way that the company took a look at the clinical nutrition sector, but add to it a strong brand name, products that had the efficacy, but also the good taste and consumer aspects to that, a stronger marketing driven organization, as well as established distribution channels. So when I look at where we are today compared to the first part of the year, when I look at what is going forward in 2022, I feel that we've absolutely filled in a lot of gaps during the year, become a much stronger nutrition company that we can look to definitely combine the clinical side of the nutrition industry with the more consumer side to kind of combine that taste and efficacy that we need going forward to be successful. And let's talk about that in a little bit more detail. This page, slide 5, talks about the highlights To me, these 8 bullet points are why I am as optimistic about what we're building here. First off, if you look at the nutrition market, this is exactly the type of market that someone would want to be in at this time period. It's large, it's growing, a lot of big players that are in the market, whether you're looking at the consumer packaged good companies that have a healthcare focus to them, and Abbott Nutrition, Nestle Health Sciences. If you look at the consumer side of the pharmaceutical companies, you have the Bayers, the world's GSKs, all these coming together to absolutely drive this global nutrition market. Despite the fact that there are large established players that continue to get bigger and bigger in this sector, and are definitely driving the growth, there's opportunities for companies the size of Guardion to compete. And for us, that is reliant on absolutely focusing on a particular segment that you can understand quite well, being able to be nimble enough to take the insights that you gain and turn them into actions. And then the other thing is moving into the second bullet point, which is understanding where you create value. For us, we create value by understanding the science and the clinical side of what our consumers need, being able to translate those consumer needs into a formulation that has the efficacy that you would expect from it, being able to run clinical work, small clinical trials to prove out the efficacy of the product. And then it's not enough just to stop at those great formulations. Those great formulations need to be turned into a product that consumers enjoy and want to take on a daily basis and have that compliance, and then ultimately be able to market to the consumers that have that need in a cost-effective way. That's actually a pretty tight part of the value chain. We don't do manufacturing, we don't do logistics, we don't have really big teams. We have very focused teams that work with individuals that are digital marketers or that do clinical research, or that it's a 3PL. So that's where we see ourselves being able to create value in the process, and why we think that we can be focused enough by focusing on bone, ocular, and immune health today, being focused in those parts of the value chain, and can definitely carve out market share within the areas where we participate. I touched earlier on the third bullet point here, which is the science-based mindset. Definitely the way that we will differentiate our products in the marketplace. And then the next 2 bullet points talk about the Viactive brand. There's no doubt that when you bring in new products to market, having a strong brand that has established customer base, that trusts the brand, that has strong consumer awareness and acceptance is so important to being able to gain a foothold and grow. The other part of that is the established distribution. And this is something that when we acquired the Viactive brand, definitely acquired a great distribution set of contacts and networks, both within traditional retailers as well as a growing online e-commerce retailers, the Amazon.com, Walmart.coms. And we see the ability to take that further through opening up some other sales channels. The next bullet point talks about the give and take with the consumer experience and the efficacy of the products. We talked about the fact that the company has traditionally been focused on the efficacy of the products, those formulations that were quite strong before Viactive, but what was lacking was being able to combine that into a product that had a good consumer experience, the product format that consumers were looking for, the taste profile, the other things that really turned into a great product. That absolute focus gives us the ability, we understand what that looks like, and we can create products that combine those 2 nicely going forward. Next up is the organic growth potential of this business has me very optimistic about the future, because I think there's opportunities to open up distribution, especially in the e-commerce side. We are not doing a Viactive online store, for example, which is something that is very interesting, definitely on trend with our growing e-commerce business. We think that there's opportunities to bring out other products that go beyond the bone health chews that can definitely gain the commercial potential to be a big contributor to the company. And we think the combination of those particular areas are going to create that organic growth engine that really drives the shareholder value, and then also makes the future acquisitions worth more, as you can bring that into the organic growth engine to drive even more value for the acquisition. The last thing here is proven capable leadership team, board of directors, and scientific board. I mentioned that we're not a huge team, but we definitely have veterans that we've brought in, and on the website we detailed each of those individuals, and given the short time frame, I won't go through them in particular, but we're definitely looking to bring in individuals that have good experience, that can have that player coach mentality, that can be a big contributor as well as a leader. We have a strong board of directors. We just added to it today. We have a press release out there about adding Michaela Griggs to our board, which we're really excited about, especially if you look at where we're going. She's the perfect fit. So I'm going to skip through a few of these slides. Basically, each of these next slides goes through the bullet points I just went through in a little bit more detail to give you more background. I'll let you go through this on your own time, but given the time that we have, I'm going to skip over those, and we're going to talk a little bit about the financial highlights of the company. So I touched on this earlier. The Viactive transaction closed in June of this year. So the third quarter of 2021 was the first year in which the first quarter that we had Viactive for all 3 months of the quarter. And during that quarter, we posted $3.1 million of sales, 95% of those sales coming from the Viactive transaction. So Viactive was absolutely material to what we do, and a big part of where we're gonna focus going forward. Touched on the fact that we had $10.6 million of cash on the balance sheet at the end of the third quarter. I think while Viactive is absolutely contributing to the EBITDA of the company, when you take into consideration the corporate costs and investments that we're making from an organic standpoint, we are consuming about $2 million per quarter in excess of the cash that we're bringing in, just to kind of give you a feel for that cash balance in relation to the burn. And then the last bullet gives you just a little bit of a feel for what Viactive did last year, if you just want to understand at a higher level what that looks like. And as you can see, by doing $3.1 million in the quarter, you can look at what Viactive did last year. You'll see that that we've been able to integrate the acquisition and continue to keep it going. Moving on to the priorities, this is really where we've been focused for the last quarter, trying to make sure that we get that organic growth engine going, and making sure that we integrate the Viactive transaction and take the best of what was occurring at the company before Viactive and then Viactive to make sure that we have the best entity and commercial strategy possible going forward. The 5 areas that we're focused on are represented on this page. The first one's the brand strategy. I think the brand name of Viactive and the customer base that Viactive has is one of the biggest assets that were acquired, and something that I feel gives us the most ability to definitely grow this business going forward. And so we've been doing a lot of work to understand how to expand that beyond the bone health segment, understanding just how far we can expand it and how best to do that. Secondly, for our product strategy, I talked a lot about the fact that it's not enough just to have a formulation that's differentiated. You have to take that through and make sure you have the taste component and the product format and the cost structure you need to have a successful product long term. We've been doing work to look at the products that we have in our portfolio and understand which of them can be improved in each of these areas. And that's something that's important when you look at some of the products that didn't achieve some of the commercial success that we had hoped for. I think you can put this lens on it and understand what types of work needs to be done on those products longer term to get that success. The third bullet here, the sales channel. I mentioned that Viactive was selling through traditional brick and mortar retailers, as well as doing more and more business online. We had a few products that were sold through direct to consumer. They were our high health products, primarily Limega Z and Glycocetin. And so as we look at going forward, we obviously want as many of our products in as many channels as possible to maximize the sales. And so we've been doing a lot of work to make sure that those channels are opened up to as many products as possible. The next bullet is on the portfolio and business line evaluation. I absolutely believe that we should only be in products and business lines where we can create a competitive advantage. And that's something that we've been analyzing post-Viactive to understand which are the products and the business lines that we should be in, that we should be utilizing shareholder money to continue to grow and improve. And that's ongoing, but I think we're getting a much better feel of which areas that we want to participate in, and you'll see that start to get better defined as we start 2022. And then lastly, from a scientific work perspective, almost all of our R&D that we had traditionally been doing was in the eye health space. Now that we have the Viactive brand and we're starting to look at new product development, we're starting to refine that scientific work and the clinical pipeline of where to spend our time and our shareholders' capital to continue to advance the science. And so, when you think about what does that mean in terms of growth, we'll definitely be at a position as we enter 2022 to be able to communicate more about the actions that we're taking, because we've been able to spend the last 4 months or so really analyzing what the company looks like now that Viactive makes up such a big piece of what we do. We talked a little bit about the, looking at the results of the business unit product evaluation. That is something that would expect to be in a position to communicate to you as we move into the new year. Also, the new product development is going to be so important to our organic growth, and we'll be communicating how that product development is going, as well as product launches. We'll continue to look for cost reduction activities and optimizing internal processes. We announced a month or two ago about going to 3PLs rather than we had a warehouse in San Diego that we're closing, transitioning to 3PL. Other steps like that where we can streamline what's going on, especially if there's cost reduction activities, is something that we'll continue to look at and communicate, as well as ramping up those commercial activities and expanding the existing businesses that we're in. There'll be opportunities to potentially expand our products across the brands, as well as implement improved commercial systems. And while acquisitions are not something that I can say, we're going to do one at a particular time, we are always evaluating additional acquisitions. And I think especially once we get the organic growth model in place that we're looking for, those acquisitions will be able to add even more value, and we'll start to look at those probably a little heavier as we get more of the organic growth in place. So with that, I will stop my presentation. I would leave you with this last page. It just has some information about our investor relations. And with that, I will be open to a question or two. I know we only have a minute or two left, but if there's any questions I can answer, I'd be happy to address them.
Sure. So just hopping on to kind of the last point that you're making, can you give us any preview, I guess, on what segments you might be looking for when we're talking about acquisitions?
Yeah, I think, maybe to broaden it beyond both, acquisition as well as potential new products, I think that the areas that are most interesting to us are going to be adjacencies to where we're at today. So, right now we're focused primarily on bone health, eye health, a little bit in immune. And if you look at the adjacencies that, to that, it's typically dealing with carotenoid. So I think that, you can think about omega-3s, you can think about opportunities in the cognitive space, you can think also opportunities in the skin and other spaces. I think those are areas that work well with the existing Viactive consumer base, as well as fit well from a scientific perspective with the work that we're currently doing today, and would be a pretty natural area to expand into. And if we can accelerate that with an acquisition, by all means, we'd be interested in. But we'll continue to go down the organic growth path and look to use acquisitions as a way to something opportunistically comes about, take advantage of.
Sure, sure. A couple more quick questions here. So this was like the resounding question coming from our chat. Any updates on Epic V that you can give?
Yeah, Epic V. That's always a hot topic.
Certainly.
Epic V, for those of you who don't know, is a formulation that we have for a drink that would be targeted to the market in Asia. And I would put it into the category of all of our product development work. There's definitely interesting formulations that are out there, and we think about how to commercialize particular products. Epic V is a product that we're definitely considering, but we're evaluating it versus other products, and there are maybe other products that we emphasize before Epic V. But
Okay.
The drink area and drinks associated with the eye health space are definitely interesting to us and something that we'll continue to consider. But there's no particular plans for when we would launch Epic V itself.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And then you got a little shout out here from Chris. Chris said, "Congrats on the hire with Michaela," and asked, "A Vactive prenatal product soon?" Question mark.
That's a great question. When you look at the consumer space, we typically the primary two groups that purchase Viactive are typically women who are pregnant, as well as postmenopausal women who are starting to be concerned about their bone health. And so when we think about what needs those consumer groups could potentially benefit from a Viactive product, there's no doubt that a prenatal vitamin would be interesting to them.
Sure.
So no plans, but it's a great question.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Bret. Bret Scholtes, President and CEO at Guardion Health. It's ticker GHSI. You have a great rest of your day, sir.
You do the same. Thank you. Happy holidays.